desperate.
Wait, should we clap?
We don't have any video. We need to sync with this.
Okay, that's what that's about. Okay.
Yeah. Like, we can clap, but there's no video.
Can we clap?
That you could. Like, no one said it's not illegal.
I thought maybe we could do it together, but I'll just clap.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't get what you were meant.
Yeah, I just thought it'd be fun if we clapped together.
Look at my eyes. We gotta get on the same page.
We do. This was important to do.
We gotta wake up.
We gotta wake up. Woo! Okay. There we go.
There, we got it. Okay.
All right. Welcome to House Calls. My name is Kate.
And I'm Natalie, and
we love Housewives. That's right. If there's anything this pandemic has shown me, it's that The Real Housewives is in fact the greatest reality TV franchise of all time. And I don't know about you, Natalie, but it really has bothered me, some of the preconceived notions that I think that people have about The Real Housewives.
You know, I really don't appreciate that either. I think that there's too often the idea out there that these women are shallow, that it's boring, it's fake, that it's all very bad people doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that I would say, is it fake? Absolutely. Everything's fake. But also, none of these women can act. And so, unlike most things, I can tell when they're faking pretty fucking easily.
Yeah, it's all fake in the sense that, like, their marriages, their businesses, 90% of their faces are all fake. But what is real are just the absolute depths of human emotion that you end up reaching with this show and with these people. Like you said, at the core of it, they are truly people.
Yes.
They might seem like cartoon characters because most of them really seem like cartoon characters. But they're human beings that just live wild lives.
It's fake like a bad marriage. Is it a veneer and people trying to control narratives? Yes. Does everyone around them know everything that's happening in a way that is frankly alarming and sad? 100%.
And obviously the idea that these are bad people and that it's glorifying this lifestyle, yeah, there's a certain amount of enabling happening here. We cannot pretend that it's not glorifying and enabling lifestyle of obscenely rich people who just, like, frankly don't need to have that much money. But the idea that it is portraying it in a light that is glorifying enough that you would aspire to have these women's lives just speaks to a lack of familiarity with these franchises, because this lifestyle is not a prize, it is a punishment.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way that you could put it. I think there's a lot of media out there trying to be like, oh, feel bad for these rich people. They're all so sad in their homes. And I've always just felt kind of spoken down to about it. But watching these shows is the first time I've ever really internalized the idea that, wow, I think I'm happier than these people.
Yeah, it's at your very core, at least you are no unhappier than them. Frankly, you are frequently happier than them. That is a very, very good assessment of it.
I would say I'm lying about 50% to maybe 1,000,000% fewer things than they are.
Yes, yeah, about it to myself, to other people.
Not well. They're not lying well, to the fake point.
No. No, just to that point. Yeah. Most of these women are not lying well. Which is one of the things that is so oddly compelling about this. There is a criticism about this show that is fair. It is the idea that there is too much of the franchise to consume. There are a lot of these shows out there.
My God, there are a lot of these shows out there.
And so maybe it is something broken in our brains that drives us to watch all of it.
Yeah, there is definitely something wrong with me in that I saw that there were like 7 different franchises, many of them with 12 plus seasons, and I just went, gimme!
I want to know everything about all of these women and every secondary and tertiary member of their lives.
If you've ever been the kind of person that thought movies should be longer, this is for you.
And if that's not necessarily for you, that's what we're here to do. Because this is genuinely fascinating content, but you maybe don't have your entire life to dedicate to this.
Exactly, and we really want to show that these shows contain some of the most bizarre and interesting women alive who, for a variety of reasons, have decided to open their homes to us. So we want to help you pay them a house call. Each week, we're going to jump into an aspect of Housewives, whether that's a specific city, housewife, or even just the music of the show. The only thing that'll be consistent is that it's never the same. But we'll give you the context each week you need to know nothing and still enjoy getting to know these women the way that we have.
But first, I think that we should give you a little context on who we are and why we love these shows so much. So I'm going to start with you here, Kate. When did you start watching Housewives?
Well, I alluded to it earlier, but I'm a very much, I started watching during the pandemic because I was staring down the barrel of an enormous amount of time for the first time in my life. And right around that time, Real Housewives of Salt Lake City was debuting. And I've always been fascinated by Mormons because, what? We'll get into it in a couple of episodes from now, but my God.
Yes.
They're just...
The Shadrach Roundy of it all.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
It's a whole state whose government got to be a religion for just, like, almost 100 years. And the whole state's super weird because of it. So I was really, really down to watch. I started watching then with Real Housewives of Salt Lake City because it was debuting. Then I am from the border of New York and New Jersey, so I started watching Real Housewives of New York because that show portrays alcoholism in a way that I find deeply accurate. And then I got into Real Housewives of Potomac and Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and Real Housewives of Dallas.
Got it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Ideal. A pandemic baby, like so many.
Yeah. It should be noted that I am also 1 year old and I have beautiful baby-like skin.
Yes, she is a baby and an infant, and that is canon.
Mm-hmm. That's visual.
I would like to move on to so this one is one that you and I have to each other use this phrase.
Yeah.
But we'd like to introduce it for the first time to the public. Who are your four housewives of the apocalypse? Clearly they don't need to be good people.
Yeah.
They are just staples of these franchises.
Mm-hmm. Content is what this is about.
Content. Truly, they are bringing you such good television, it must be the end of days.
Like all of the Trump presidency, when the news was just so interesting and the world was just absolutely ending. I'm going to start it right off with a controversial pick, which is Jen Shaw.
Oh my God.
Look. When you watch someone dominate a scene like that, you go, ooh, I want to see him with a real player. And I want to see Jen Shaw go up against Nene Leakes.
Is that a segue into your second?
That is absolutely my second housewife of the apocalypse.
Yes.
Because when I look at my four housewives of the apocalypse, I want fighting.
Okay, yeah. You said you want Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, I want Apocalypse Now, which is why my third pick is Dorinda Medley.
Okay.
That's right. I want something so toxic that the censors wouldn't let it air.
Just the meanest, absolutely darkest fight that could exist.
Yeah, I want the worst house timeline out there.
And what fourth housewife do you want in there?
Well, who else could top that level of toxic and smart but Candace Dillard Bassett?
Oh my God.
I want to absolutely set Dorinda Medley up to fail.
You think that Candace could beat Dorinda in a game of words?
I think that if Dorinda tried to pull the shit that Dorinda always be trying to pull, that Nene and Candace would really tear her down.
Just in the words of Chris Bassett, she has a lot of adjectives.
She has a lot of adjectives.
That is a woman whose husband just absolutely cut to the core of who she is in the most diplomatic way possible with that statement.
Yeah.
I agree that I think that you're right that Nene would, I think she would balance Candace in this really interesting way.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be one of those things where, like Candace is punching high, just going and going and jabbing, and then suddenly Nene's, like, taking you out from the legs down.
Exactly.
Like, she just knocks you out from the base. She says something that absolutely rocks your world, like, in a really calm way.
Oh, yeah, and I think, by the way, that Nene and Candace would fight, I just think Nene would destroy Candace immediately.
Oh, if they were fighting with each other? Yeah, they'd have to be on the same team. Like, it would be devastating to watch her just...
Candace has the best
flatten
cards.
her like a pancake.
Yeah. Absolutely 100% wreck her. And I led with Jen Shaw, but I think I want her in this group because she adapts in ways that I cannot expect, and I am fascinated to see what she would do in a room with that much personality. Would she go fully crazy to top the room, or would she become the hero that I root for? Mm-hmm. Like, would she be the grounded one? Mm-hmm. I gotta volley it back to you, though, because I know we're asking a couple questions, but I gotta know. Who were yours?
My 4 horsewomen?
Your 4 horsewives.
Yes, my 4 horsewives.
4 horsewives. Horse girls grow up to be horsewives.
Horse squirrels? Horse squirrels.
Horse squirrels.
My 4 horsewives of the apocalypse. I think I have to start out with Teresa Giudice. There is no other in my book. She's the GOAT. Thank you. She's the one. You can't top Teresa Giudice.
No, she said we're here flipping tables.
Yeah, she started the table flipping. Mm-hmm. That was not a fight about Teresa, which is the thing that truly rocks me to my core. The way I started out watching was with The Real Housewives of New Jersey. So I have like a pretty touch and go relationship with this franchise because I started watching Housewives when it first aired, The Real Housewives of New Jersey. So I don't even remember exactly how old I was, but probably somewhere around 10. And I watched it with my mother, who is from New Jersey. So it was really there, but for the grace of God, go us experience watching this. Just truly, so much of it was so familiar in such an uncanny way that I didn't even recognize it until I started rewatching it. We only watched maybe the first season or so, and then I started rewatching it probably a good 7 to 9 months into you rewatching, starting to watch this stuff in the pandemic.
Yeah.
I didn't get into it until you were already on it was like the end of season 1 of Salt Lake City, I think.
Yeah, because I said I
watched the reunion with you. I remember that.
It was very great. I
only half knew what was happening at the time. It was truly an amazing experience.
These women say good words, and if you've never watched an episode of Housewives, I would really highly recommend that you just watch one, because the things that they say they're weird. They're just weird.
They're bizarre, yes. To that exact point of someone who says things that are just bizarre, my other horsewife of the apocalypse would have to be Mary M. Cosby. Truly of the apocalypse.
You said her name.
Am only going to leave it at that she says things that clearly cut to the core of people in a way that is unparalleled.
Yeah.
And we're going to move on because she scares me more than anyone.
Yeah,
she scares me so much, Kate.
She scares me so bad, and I will only follow up to say that the number 1 rule of this podcast is you can only say her name twice, because I believe if you said it 3 times, she would appear and kill me.
Yeah, it's a real Beetlejuice type scenario.
Yeah, so, I agree. Moving on.
And then next, we're gonna bring it back somewhere fun, and Wendy Osefo, sorry, people like me have to call her Dr. Wendy Osefo.
You have to call her doctor because she has 5 degrees.
Because she has 5 degrees?
She has 5 degrees.
She has 5 degrees.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how you missed that. She mentions it.
Well, I knew about 4 of them. I didn't know about the 5th.
She downplays that last one because she knows it's classy. Also, maybe it's 4 and I forgot.
Either way, a lot of degrees. Dr. Wendy Osefo of The Real Housewives of Potomac. She has only been on for a couple of seasons now, but she has come out the gate as someone who is fun, someone who is entertaining, and someone who is not afraid to tell you exactly what is on her mind. Mm-hmm. Also, every part of someone that has a feud about how many wicks are in a candle, I want to see more!
For those of you who don't know, sometimes I believe that spoilers are tantalizing little pieces of juice.
They're just little morsels.
Yeah, just little breadcrumbs.
This is an appetizer.
This is just a little, an aperitif.
An amuse-bouche.
There we go. This one speaks French. But, well, one time, Dr. Wendy Osefo got into a feud with Karen Huger because Dr. Wendy Osefo launched her 1-wick candle at the same time that Karen Huger launched her 3-wick candle. And in the reunion, when asked about this by Andy Cohen, she did not launch a 3-wick candle, no. She launched a 5 and 7-wick candle.
Which is bananas.
As you said, Natalie, it's just a small fire in your home.
Yeah, my reaction to that was that it was a fire hazard, and I want one. I want that fire hazard in my house. And I bet it smells amazing. We definitely have a space that is way, way too small for that many wicks, and I just want it.
Yeah.
I bet it will be warm.
Yeah. Look, one of the criticisms is that we might contribute economically too much to these women, and to that point, those candles were sold out when I went to buy them.
And my number 4 Housewife of the Apocalypse has to be Ramona Singer of The Real Housewives of New York. Because, again, she is truly someone that I think is a mark of the end of days. She is a Trump supporter. I'm not trying to say she is a good person.
No.
Truly to the exact point of,
I got that when you put Mary in
the
here.
direct opposite. I'm not saying that all of them are bad people. I'm just saying there are different levels to why you are a Housewife of the Apocalypse. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's just because nothing gold can stay.
Yeah.
In the case of, Dr. Wendy Osefo and 7-wick candles. And sometimes it's because I truly think that something in your existence is the female Donald Trump, and that is Ramona Singer.
You know what? This is a really incredible pitch, Natalie. Do you want to elaborate on it?
Oh, yes. So, obviously, they're both from New York, and so they have that kind of weird, fast-talking New York mentality. But there's something that, their brains have been broken in that same way that I think that the New York social scene clearly does to people. Because the only way to really understand it is to see Ramona, but it's like she's trying to talk so fast that neither you nor her can realize that she has no idea what is happening in her life and has no control over what she's saying.
Yeah. This is such a good pitch because Ramona Singer is a Karen with a K. With 3 Ks, actually.
Oh, yes. A grifter through and through. A Karen with 3 Ks.
Who hides behind the giant cross that she always wears on her neck. And I would love nothing more than in the inevitable feud and I'm going to use her name just one more time here to make this point, that Mary M. Cosby would get in with her. She would invoke Jesus, and I would like Ramona to die thinking that Jesus had killed her.
I am maybe just still too afraid of Mary to comment on that. We can't do the whole
We can't comment on that right now.
We can't comment on that right now.
Moving on, I do have to ask though, you've alluded to some of your favorite housewives, but of those, were any of those involved in a moment that hooked you? Was there a different moment that really hooked you?
Oh, yeah, the moment that hooked me just truly, it is the original Housewives moment. It's Teresa Giudice flipping that table, yelling prostitution whores and flipping a table in public at a fight that doesn't involve you. Yeah, she starts screaming at one of the other women for no apparent reason when Teresa had not been involved in the fight up until that point.
Yeah, screaming at Danielle Staub, another woman whose name I am too afraid to say more than twice.
Yeah, it's honestly a pretty rough franchise in that way.
Yeah. This show features a lot of women who should probably be too afraid to be on TV and yet aren't, and that to me is probably the most bone-chilling quality in somebody.
That's the scariest thing in the world.
Yeah, they have everything to lose, and yet they are unafraid.
What is the moment that hooked you?
You know what, I'm gonna shout out to a small one, because I think that as much as Housewives delivers on really big drama, I think there are some really grounded friendships here that is a big part of what's attracted it to me. And there's a moment when they are in Turks and Caicos in season 7 of Real Housewives of New York, where Sonia and Luann are talking to each other, and they're talking about something that their friend... You know, what is friendship on these shows? But Carol had done, and Sonia goes, do I do that? And Luann goes, no. Well, we'll talk about it later. And there was just something so real in that, no, actually, that's every female friendship I've ever had in a nutshell.
That's such an excellent point, Kate. It points to such a really important part of these shows, which I think is really underrated and undersold, which is the fact that you see so many of these beautiful moments of friendship between these women. You often see these really raw moments involving motherhood and divorce. And these women's lives get really, really real, and often they do not shy away from telling their story on camera in a way that usually in the confessionals, which are just anyone unfamiliar with that, it's just the parts where they're sitting down, speaking directly to the camera, usually separated by several weeks to months from the scenes they're filming.
Yeah.
And they usually end up discussing things in this really grounded and really... I think really important way where it's just like, look, it was a hard time in my life, but I thought someone would benefit from also seeing me go through this. And, yeah,
a big part of why I love Housewives is because I think there's a lot of stories about particularly older women that just aren't told on television. And as much as it's in, it's not exactly an Oscar film, but they do really break down some really raw, real moments between people. And I'm excited to get to some of those on this podcast. I'm also excited about the fact that these women, my God, they have the best words.
They do.
They do.
I think that with that, I think it's about time that we just jump right in to our first episode of the first show we're going to be watching.
Ooh, that's the Real Housewives of Dallas. Welcome to Dallas, you guys. We just got canceled, y'all. That's right. We're dropping in on the debut episode of Housewives' most problematic franchise because we want to see the real America.
And the real America is racist as hell. For all our newbies out there, Dallas ran for 5 seasons before being put on the shelf after years mired in scandal.
Since Natalie has never seen Dallas, and I have because my father's family is from Texas, and damn do I know those women, but she doesn't know any of these scandals, and I watched it before its demise. We thought the most interesting way to get to know these gals was to play a little game called Who's Canceled?
All right, I think that we should start out by introducing these key players in the cast here. You can't know who's canceled until you know who's at the party.
No, I will tell you ahead of time. Ultimately, 3 members of this cast will be canceled. 2 of them are on this show today.
Okay. So only 2 of my... I only have 2 pools to guess from out of who I've met.
Right, only 2 of these Texas queens have done something despicable and horrendous. So Bravo producers have been looking to expand the Housewives franchise into Dallas for years, but failed to find the right cast until they met Leanne Locken while exploring the Dallas charity scene. Locken sold herself as a gatekeeper to charity galas and pitched herself, along with her best friend, Tiffany Hendra, to the show. as well as introducing producers to Carrie Duber. Brandy Redmond and Stephanie Holman, who had been cast in a pilot about young mothers years earlier, were brought in as well when producers re-encountered them on the charity scene. Dallas was originally picked up by Bravo as a show called How to Make It in Dallas, about charity wives, before being repackaged into Real Housewives of Dallas after it had been filmed.
We are welcomed into Dallas by Brandy Redmond. She has been here for 15 years and seems forever 15. Mm-hmm. She moved to Dallas as a 21-year-old, and it was to be a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader. A very accomplished one, did it for 6 years. Yeah. And now she's the mother to 2 beautiful girls.
Yeah, she married her 8th grade sweetheart. And I think Brian, they are probably the poster couple for, are they siblings or are they married?
Mm-hmm, yes.
And I'm going to let her describe her marriage in her own words. I was dating the middle school quarterback, and he broke up with me, so I started dating Brian to make him jealous, and we're still together.
Oh, I love your Brandy voice. Yeah, she really does describe her marriage as, and we are still together.
Yeah, she really doesn't give you any details to, like, soften the blow on that one. She's just like...
No, she kind of just... She really trucks on into... her husband really wants to be a millionaire by the time he's 40, and he works so hard that one day he's gonna drop dead on a golf course and they're gonna bury him in a hole or something.
Yeah, which is really a damn shame because they have 2 of the cutest kids I've frankly ever seen in my whole life.
Oh yeah, there should be an entirely different show about those kids and just how cute they are.
One of them is always covered in strawberries, and it's very clear that whenever her mom comes near with a brush, she runs away.
Oh, it's, yeah, the cutest, most toddler, adorable stuff you've ever seen.
Yeah, I think watching them, I said that they are the saddest ones, and then remembered that pretty much, as a rule in Housewives, for our new viewers, they're all the saddest ones.
Yeah, we then get to meet Tiffany and Leanne as they're going shopping with, as Leanne calls him, Baby Bear.
Yeah, I think Leanne introduces herself nicely by immediately saying, he locked us out. Oh my god, it's a pull.
Yeah, just a wild oscillation of reactions.
Yeah, so she lets you know who she's going to be right away.
Yeah, they go shopping for dresses for the charity season. Leanne is a fundraiser and charity organizer. This is her life. Mm-hmm. We don't know what her real job is or if she has one. Mm-hmm. They refer to her as the mouth of the South.
And she thinks that that's about her voice.
And I would like to think that the nicest interpretation of it is that she has a bit of a sailor's mouth and she likes to curse.
I think the nature of a double entendre is that it means 2 things.
That sure is what it means. That is what that phrase means.
Yeah, Leanne basically embodies that person at the charity gala whose job is to know everybody. And so she will tell you who you need to talk to, but she kind of paints herself as this gatekeeper of the charity world. She's also a carny kid. Yeah,
she does not come from the same kind of upper middle class or upper crust background that a lot of these women do. She talks about being mugged, knocked over the head, having her money stolen. It is unclear whether these are separate incidents or the same incident, but either way, bad time at the carnival, carny kid. She refers to herself as far from a Southern belle, and I think that is a very elegant way of putting things.
Yeah.
And she has the biggest turquoise statement necklace that I've ever seen. There is a piece of, raw, rough-cut turquoise in it that's, like, the size of her hand.
Yeah. It looks like she went down to the mine, got it herself, wrapped some aluminum foil around it, and just kind of stuck it on her.
Yeah, so as her friend Tiffany picks up a dress and Leanne remarks to her that she looks like a fucking pink Christmas tree, we then get to learn a little bit about Tiffany.
Yes, Tiffany is a former Hollywood gal. She used to be a model in Hollywood before kind of flaming out
She's married to a man named Aaron, who I would bet so much money.
All my money.
Every dollar I owned that at one point
none.
he was a Keith Urban impersonator, because this man looks exactly like Keith Urban. He is also Australian.
Yeah, one thing I learned in the books, Not All Diamond and Rosé, which is where I pull a lot of the background information from, is that fans refer to him as Keith Suburban.
That's delightful. I agree with every person that does that. At least about that.
Yeah, so Tiffany basically went to LA, enjoyed too much, as she puts it, Coke, Cristal, and planes.
Profit planes.
Yeah, I'm gonna take that one more time.
Just go from Tiffany goes to...
Yeah. Sorry, I just needed a second. But Tiffany went to LA and basically spun out on what she refers to as Coke, Cristal, and private plane. And has since moved back to Dallas to get to know her, to get reacquainted with her best friend, who she views as the centerpiece of the most rooted and grounded time of her life, Leanne Locken. Which is a choice.
Yes, it seems to be terrifying that is the most grounding person that she knows.
Yeah. Then we get to know Carrie and Mark. Mark is a plastic surgeon, and you can tell because they are having their first intro scene over an active boob job.
Yeah, it's wild. It is all censored because it's like American TV, and it's a surgery and boobs. That's a double no-no on TV.
Yeah.
That's what they call a twofer.
That's what the FCC calls it, yeah.
Yeah, the FCC refers to that as a twofer. But you actually see, like, through the blur, you can see, like, basically the before shot, and then the after shot once the implants are in and stitched back up. And you know what? He's a pretty good surgeon.
He's definitely a good plastic surgeon.
Apart from letting cameras into the operating room. They weren't in the room. They were out of the room. You could tell there was a partition between them.
In hindsight, quite frankly, I think that's the plastic surgeon version of calling your shot.
Yeah.
He said, this one's gonna be a good one.
Yeah, he said, we're getting it from the outside here.
But Carrie is his registered nurse. She tells their story very cheerfully, that he didn't want to hire her. She just showed up and nursed his surgeries, which, can we take a side note and just talk about that for a second?
She showed up and just kept insisting, like, hey, don't you need help? Are you missing anyone on a shift? Until he just was like, fine, scrub up and get in.
I've never heard of anyone becoming a doctor or nurse like that, but I love that as a future career path.
No, the idea that she just how to succeed in business without really trying her way into surgery?
You know, they like
she might be my favorite. She may be the one that's canceled. I don't know yet, but right now that's a good standing for favorite.
Oh, I'm not gonna tell you, but I am gonna tell you that those two have apparently been friends through 2 of her marriages and 1 of his. And the rumor around Dallas is that they had an affair. But she claims affair she wishes. Though this does seem to really deny the potential existence of an emotional affair, but that's really not the point here, I guess.
I don't know if those exist in Dallas.
I don't know if those exist anywhere on a Real Housewives franchise, Natalie.
Yeah, it's really fascinating the way that these marriages work most of the time.
Yeah.
And by fascinating, I mean deeply sad in many ways.
Yeah, I do want to shout out all of these women are really embodying a real staple of the Housewives franchise for our newbie listeners, which is dead-eyed smile. As you tell a horrifying detail that we have to react to, also with a smile, I guess.
Yeah, it's like a shark's eyes.
Yeah. But you know who doesn't adhere to that kind of, like, forced Southern charms? The editors.
No, the editors said we see right through everything that is happening right now.
We also meet Brandy's best friend, Stephanie.
Stephanie is a real goofy gal. That's her way of describing herself. They're best friends that met through their husbands. She lives right on the hole, as Brandy puts it, of a golf course at the Four Seasons. You can tell that she's maybe not super classy because she thinks that this is the fanciest thing in the world.
To be clear, I say that as someone who also would have thought that was the fanciest thing in the world when I was 12 years old.
Yeah, I'm not to like split hairs, but when we were writing things preliminary for this and it was like, oh, well, obviously she's not fancy because of this, I was like, right, yes, of course. It's not fancy to live on a golf course at the Four Seasons.
Because it does sound like Eloise a little bit, right?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
The Zack and Cody of it all?
Yeah.
But Stephanie and her husband live there, and he is obscenely rich in some way, seemingly, but we can't quite tell. He's got this weird Ken jawline.
Yeah.
I want to take that again. I kind of lost where I was at, sorry.
Yeah.
Something she thinks is fancy.
Yeah, I'm still getting used to keeping up with. Mm-hmm. We should probably go to the...
sorry, we've had to jump around a little bit just because I was talking... Like, I started talking in the order of the episode and I didn't realize where we were at the time.
No, as we're doing this, I'm seeing ways that I can streamline these notes and make it a little bit easier to follow. I think we should probably go, honestly, not even to her marriage, but to the Stephanie being the daughter from Footloose part.
Yeah. Sorry. You're not going to highlight it anymore, are you?
No.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure because it would kind of throw me off.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to go for Brandy sees her best friend, Stephanie.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I didn't like that take very much.
Brandy introduces us to her best friend, Stephanie. They met through their husbands, and Stephanie lives, as Brandy puts it,
right on the hole.
She lives on the hole of a golf course at the Four Seasons. You can tell that she's not the classiest person in the world because she thinks that this is fancy. And we do say this as people who watched this and originally totally were sold on the fantasy of this being fancy, and then saw how everyone else reacted to it.
Yeah, as much as I am critical of her in this moment, there's also a part of me that heard that and went, oh my god, she's like Eloise. But Stephanie is, to sum it up, she's the daughter from Footloose. Her father was a preacher, she wasn't allowed to dance, and now she wants to go crazy.
Her and her husband, they met on a romance that was fueled by, as she and as Brandy always referred to it, Jesus juice.
If I hear the phrase Jesus juice one more fucking time, Natalie.
Yeah, if you played a game where you drank every time these women said Jesus juice, you would be dead.
You would see Jesus.
You would meet him. So it's fair to assume that the whole repression, the footloose, the no dancing did not work. She seemingly got, they had a 6-month whirlwind romance and then got engaged.
Yeah, number one rule I've learned from these shows is if you tell them not to party, they gon' party. But she met her husband partying, and they got married in this whirlwind romance, and then she found out that actually he's an uptight jackass.
Yeah, they are fundamentally very different people. She is very silly and enjoys talking about poop and farts and farting on command and goofing around and getting wine drunk with her friend, and he wants his mom.
Yeah, Travis has mommy issues and he's gonna micromanage his wife about it, and it's really annoying to see. She might actually be the saddest one because she says the words, sometimes I feel like if there were a rapture, I'm ready. That's not a good one, but I just really want to get across to the listener here how absolutely high-pitched Minnie Mouse her voice is.
Yeah. It's someone saying the saddest thing in the silliest voice you've ever heard.
Yeah, because I wish I was raptured is how Christians say, please kill me.
So, Brandy and Stephanie are goofing around at her house as Stephanie's trying to complete some, as she puts it, tasks her husband leaves for her to earn her money. Gross.
Yes, it is very gross. There is also another element of it, however, that is deeply Southern. Which, the gross element of it is due. But Specifically...
Please enlighten me.
Oh, absolutely. So basically, if you're a man who can't do man chores like fixing the garage door opener, you cannot... Not only can you not call someone for help, you cannot sanction your wife calling someone for help. So what you have to do is tell your wife to do it and create a fantasy for yourself that your baby-voiced wife is fixing your garage door opener. When in reality, she's just calling the handyman that you yourself should call.
Yes, of course. That makes perfect sense. Toxic masculinity at its finest.
Yeah. So it's certainly out of pocket, but that whole state is out of pocket.
So Stephanie and Brandy are getting very drunk while they're trying to install this. They talk about how they frequently drink a little too much Jesus juice and get the giggles. They start peeing in bushes and farting on command and dancing in each other's farts.
By the way, if you don't like fart talk, well, fucking get ready for it.
Yeah, you are not gonna like this one. You would not like The Real Housewives of Dallas Season 1 if you're not gonna like fart jokes, because that is all these two do. All they do is talk about pooping and farting.
Mm-hmm. Lastly, we have a friend of in Marie, and she is the friend whose house Leanne uses to hide the fact that she lives in my grandma's house.
Yeah, Marie has such a beautiful palatial home that, as Leanne puts it, it's like going to a spa when you're in her bathroom. Which fascinates me because to me that implies that she's just like showering and bathing at Marie's home.
She says it later. She says, sometimes when there's a party, I wander off and I use the bathroom.
That's amazing.
That's confidence, baby.
Yeah.
And that's the gals. So I gotta get from you, before I reveal it, can I get some early round predictions in our little Who's Canceled game here?
Okay, yes. I have to say that I think that probably Leanne is canceled because, one, she is just such a sporadic person, and two, we do find, we found out, I don't know if we addressed it, is that her husband, or sorry, not her husband, her boyfriend is a cop, so it feels like one of the easiestly cancelable.
Yeah, ACAB includes Rich, y'all.
ACAB definitely includes Rich. Well, she knew he was a bastard because he wouldn't marry her.
Yeah, we didn't mention it earlier, but it is important to mention that Leanne, for all her highfalutenness, is shacking up with a cop in his shitty house, and he's refused to marry her for the last 6 years.
Yeah. And then I have to guess that probably the other canceled one is Brandy.
And what makes you say that?
I don't have a lot to go on, but you said there's two so far. And just the way that Brandy doubles down, we haven't gotten into the fight scene that she has with Leanne yet, but the way that she just keeps digging and digging into things, it just feels like it feels like I could easily see her getting in a fight where she is objectively on the wrong side of things and digging her heels in to the point where she is fully canceled.
Well, I'm not going to reveal it just yet, but I do want to say that you'd be a good NBA coach. Now, for all our new viewers, I do want to let you guys know that basically every episode of Housewives is set up pretty much like this one is. You get individual scenes with each of the housewives, and they all come together at the end for a large party at which usually they fight. This case, it's no different. As we mentioned before, Leanne is throwing a party in Marie's house because, and I will not stop mentioning this, she does not have a nice house.
This charity event that they have thrown together at Marie's house is, quote, no tie, which all of the dress codes are very important, as Leanne stresses, even when the dress code is casual, seemingly.
Yeah. It's also worth noting here, just as a little historical moment, part of the reason that a lot of these early charity events are at one of their homes is because they were pretty much iced out of the Dallas charity scene as soon as they heard that Bravo was filming with them.
Yeah, none of these larger organizations really want to have these cameras at their events.
No, they sneak into a couple of them later on in the season, but especially early on, these are pretty much just events these women are throwing for each other. So we get all of these women in the house. By the way, shout out to Marie for looking trapped in the eyes.
Yeah, she truly does not. She and Leanne are nearly identical women, but in the way that Leanne has a cold violence in her eyes, Marie is scared and trapped, and I think being used as some kind of a puppet at any given moment.
Yeah. Marie is one of those people who her life is terrible always, and I kind of feel bad for her because I don't feel like she deserves it.
No, there's a lot of characters that becomes kind of stand-ins for the viewer. Often they are the friend of or not really at the center of the conflicts.
Mm-hmm. So the big conflict here is going to center around... sorry, I'm going to say that one more time. The big conflict here is going to center around an alleged impression that Brandy does of Leanne. Now, I don't know if you can tell, we've enjoyed our impressions of Leanne here on this episode so far.
I also think it's pretty generous to call it an alleged impression, because Brandy does the impression in her confessional.
Yeah, clearly every time the producers bring it up, she's like, oh yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah, there's no way that she... while she does not admit to Leanne's face that she does this impression, it's very clear that she does do it, and she also never denies it, and she does it on camera, just not to Leanne.
The impression very much centers around the fact that at these charity events, Leanne has a habit of drawing focus on herself. So when somebody will be talking, every time they'll mention a money event, she'll go, mm-hmm. The impression specifically centers around going, mm-hmm, $50,000.
Yeah, she'll just, like, list off whatever the amount of money that's needed at that charity event. So it'd be like, we got $40,000, we raised it,
And to Brandy's point, as soon as we see that start to happen, the man at the charity event does list off a number, and she immediately goes, woohoo, yeah!
Yeah, and it is an AIDS benefit. He is talking about people who have lost their lives and their livelihoods, and it's a very somber moment. You can see everyone else in the room feel that. But for some reason, Leanne is just sitting back and going, woo! So, you know, is Brandy wrong to do an impression of someone that she knows is ultimately going to get offended and then think that she can get away with it? Yeah, she shouldn't think that she could get away with it. But is that impression based in reality and fundamentally hilarious? Also, yes.
Also, yes. But Leanne is an experienced Southern lady, and so she decides to confront Brandy Texas style. In this case, that means turning to Tiffany Hendra and saying, you know, she mimics us.
Yes. Now, this is the first episode, so I recognize that we could see something later or find out some more later, but I think there is something so fascinating about the fact that we have only seen her mimic Leanne so far, and Leanne turns to Tiffany to say that she mimics us, the collective, just really getting someone else on her side.
And Tiffany, who's got a little bit of spitfire in her, immediately goes up to Brandy and, while smiling and laughing ostensibly, says, oh, do it! I want to see it! I want to see you do the impression.
And Leanne stands behind her and goes, I want to see it. It's fascinating. Brandy just goes full deer in the headlights. She shuts down entirely. She is silent as Stephanie tries to save her, saying, like, no, it's funny, it's really lighthearted, it's not, like, coming from a place of insulting, really tries to save her ass on that one. And Brandy just freezes. She does not say a single word.
No, she is toasted at this point.
As the women kind of disperse and walk away, Leanne looks at her and goes, I never miss a beat, by the way.
Y'all don't have a lot to say, huh?
Yeah, Carrie and Leanne exchange a few brief words about whether or not Carrie is saying what she wants to Leanne's face. It doesn't really go very far in terms of that. And then eventually Brandy asks Leanne to go sit down so that they can have a one-on-one discussion.
And this conflict is the centerpiece, really, of why I wanted to talk about The Real Housewives of Dallas. And what hooked me on The Real Housewives of Dallas, because they do not fight in a way that made sense to me outside of the context of my Southern family, and within that context made me feel seen for the first time.
Yeah, these women fight in a way that is so fascinatingly passive-aggressive. as they sit down to discuss what is truly bothering both of them.
Right.
Brandy brings up a charity event that had happened a few weeks ago that Leanne had been organizing, I believe, and speaking at, and how at the end of the event she got up to share what Brandy felt to be an inappropriate story given the circumstances of the charity.
As she says it, "You spoke about yourself. I was worried about you." But the thing about these conflicts is, you cannot respond by yelling because then you will prove yourself to be not a Southern belle. You have to prove yourself to be kind and not yelly while still having a conflict. And those are bizarre constraints to have a conflict under.
Yeah, it's fascinating that as Leanne even kind of folded on the mimicking thing, when they started the discussion, it was about whether or not Brandy did an impression of Leanne, and Leanne was like, you know what, I even understand that it's probably lighthearted, it's probably not done in malice, so I don't hold any of that against you. And Brandy could have just walked away, but that's when she chose to bring up the charity stuff. Which proves that both, you're right, she was toasted, and two, there was so much of this conflict that was already boiling under the surface before those two women sat down with each other.
Oh, 100%. And I think Brandy does much better in kind of the second round of conflict, because that first one, she doesn't hold herself... Actually, can I take that again? Yeah, tracking this fight, to be honest with you, I could not tell who was winning at all. They just kept kind of batting passive-aggressive things around at each other. You know, you don't need to be passive-aggressive and loud to be accepted. You can be yourself. It's, I am who I am, but thank you so much. I think ultimately the only way I could tell at all that I think Leanne was winning was because Brandy had to call Stephanie over for backup.
Yeah, Stephanie comes over and she clearly still is kind of trying to do that same byline of the impressions aren't mean, it was all in good fun. And then Brandy explodes into the maybe truest thing that anyone says on this show, which is just, I don't understand why we are spending the money and time having this event for charity when we could spend the money that we spent on this event on charity. Brandy's whole attitude seems to be, why does everyone disguise that they want to party? Why can't we just party and then give a check to charity a different, on Monday or some shit?
Yeah, Brandy, to me, is a very chaotic, neutral character in that her kind of whole, she's a very chaotic, neutral character, and that her whole thing is kind of like, what the fuck are the point of all these charity events? We're not raising any real money. We should just throw a party anyway. Fuck charity. So she's like really, really, really close to having a good point and then just kind of swerves the other way with it right at the end.
As you put it earlier as we were first watching it, she is the Joker of this series.
And to that point, by the way, since we've reached the end of this fight for this episode, you called it Brandy Redmond's canceled, y'all.
Brandy Redmond's canceled!
Mm-hmm. Brandy Redmond got caught on camera doing an impression of an Asian person that included the eyes.
Oh, that's unsurprising.
And then they kept her on for another season.
For another one?
And invited on an Asian woman to join the cast, who Brandy bullied.
Oh, so they just decided to traumatize that woman?
Yeah, but now she gets to come on Watch What Happens Live whenever she wants, so it's fine.
Bravo's complicated.
It sure is. And you also, shocker of the century, Leanne Locken, extremely canceled. Oh my god.
Yeah, that one, I'm sure that the boyfriend or husband or whoever he is at this point thing is just the tip of the iceberg. And I will only continue to find out more if I watch more of the show.
Yeah, so the thing about Leanne is, she she was openly racist on camera a bunch of times.
Got it.
To a Mexican castmate.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well.
And then doubled down at the reunion.
Doesn't it just feel terrible to be right about any of these?
It doesn't feel good. And if I think this game has proven anything, it's that just because someone's charming doesn't mean they're not racist.
Yeah, as this game and all of our grandmothers have proven, that is a fact.
So before we get going, I wanted to run through just a little roundup of this episode.
Yeah, the women of this show refer to the roundup because it's Texas and ranching culture is a big thing. But there's also a famous quote that we will eventually reach involving the roundup, which brings us to our drink of the week that we've created. It's called the Rosé Roundup.
All right, now that we've recapped the episode, I just want to introduce a couple of segments that we're going to have at the end of each episode that we recap, just to give you a little feel for the kind of things that we like to pick up on when we're watching at home. The first segment is the flop of the week.
Flop of the week. So this is just truly about who sucked. Who could we have just done without?
Get out of here.
We don't want to see them. They're a flop. They're a disaster. They're not contributing anything good to this episode.
No, throw it back to the sea. I don't need it.
And our flop of the week this week is Travis.
Travis, you sucked this episode.
You leaving chores for your wife to do that just because you can't do them and you're afraid to admit you can't do them?
If you want to pack your boy's suitcase, why don't you pack your boy's suitcase? If you're going to put Stephanie in charge of it, let Stephanie be in charge of it.
Let Stephanie pack the boy's suitcase how she's going to pack them, not how your mom would have packed them.
Oh, Travis, you're a flop.
Flop of the week. Our next segment is a house call special.
Now, every week these women give us lines that I quote for the next 5 years. And this episode was no different.
No, if you have a line delivery that's iconic enough, you will be the special delivery. And this week's special delivery goes to the very canceled Leanne.
Leanne, you may use your words for evil, but sometimes you say things like, "You want to mimic people? Talk about farts and poop? Yeah, I need help."
Yeah, the fact that someone can say the phrase farts and poop completely incredulously and 100% seriously, I can't believe that she was able to get through that without realizing that that was the funniest thing anyone had ever said in the middle of her take.
I think it's easy in some ways to laugh at Leanne as she's canceled because we're not laughing with her. You don't get the sense that she's in charge of a lot of the funny that she exudes.
No, the humor surrounding her is a real sad clown situation.
Yeah.
It's a real Pulcinella type deal.
We're laughing at her, for sure.
And there's a lot that makes you laugh in these shows, and some of it's not always the main cast. There's a lot of really beautiful parts of just little morsels that are given to us from the tertiary members of this show. Sometimes they're family, sometimes they're friends, sometimes they're just a passing stranger. And so this is our weekly honorable mention.
Honorable mention.
Our honorable mention this week is Cruz.
Cruz is Stephanie's son. And while Stephanie was having her 30,000th conversation about poop for that episode, in which she revealed that I guess she doesn't pick up her dog's poops.
Yeah, because apparently her 3-year-old was throwing the dog poops into the pool, so she had to fish them out with a net, instead of just picking them up with a dog bag when the dog shits them out like a normal person.
Well, see, the thing is, Cruz is 3 years old, and he doesn't give a shit what his mom's talking about. So when his mom came over to ask him to participate as a little show pony in this conversation, he said, basically, "I peed in my pants."
Yeah, he took that opportunity, that opening, and that introduction to go, yes, hello, I'm Cruz, I'm 3 years old, and I peed in my pants. He did not say all of those words, but that was his introduction to the world.
No, his words were, I peed in my pants, but it was pretty clear that he'd been waiting for a moment to get into the conversation to let his mom know. Maybe even that he just had to pee.
Yeah, those bitches had been talking for a long time, and he probably needed to pee a while ago, and so he peed in his pants, and then finally found an opportunity to talk.
But Cruz, ever the champion, says, I peed in my pants, and then immediately starts taking off his pants on camera.
Dropping trow in an instant.
And Cruz, that's why you get an honorable mention. And last, but certainly not least, our biggest award, the Superstar Award.
This is someone who stole focus, who drew attention in a way that was just undeniable, someone who just has that star quality, and this week our Superstar Award goes to Keith Suburban.
Keith Suburban. This show was so fun, and you were at least half of the reason why.
Ladies and gentlemen, Keith Suburban. Those highlights.
Keith Suburban, quit your attempted country music career and start being a Keith Urban impersonator.
That sounds like a much more lucrative career for you. Then he would be the little mimicker.
And that's bringing it full circle, baby.
That brings us to the end of our first episode of The Real Housewives of Dallas.
And our first episode of House Calls. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope we were able to show you at least a little bit of why we love some of these shows.
We're going to come back with different episodes. We aren't going to stick to any particular format, as Kate said, of sticking to one show.
No, don't tell me what to do.
Yeah, we won't tell you what to do. You won't tell us what to do. I think this is how things stay best. We're going to stay on our lane here.
I don't care if you like it. We'll be back next week watching the season finale of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City.
It's been a pleasure calling on you. Bye.